Welcome back to the Bad Influence podcast, where we show you how to overcome the pain of your life. I'm the bad influence that you need in your life, Bjordan Banderas. Listen up, because here's a truth that will knock the wind out of you. You bleed more from emotional wounds than any physical cut ever could. A broken bone heals with time. A twisted ankle regains its strength. But a heart betrayed, a dream shattered, a trust violated, that kind of bleeding doesn't just stop because the world expects you to move on. You know the pain I'm talking about. That lingering ache deep in your gut when someone you love tears you apart with a single sentence. Or that silent sting of feeling worthless after one too many failures. You felt it. Fuck. We all have at one point in our lives, right? Yet, we treat emotional pain like some inconvenience we should get over. As if ignoring it, minimizing it, or burying it under a smile will magically make it vanish. But ignoring emotional wounds only makes them fester. You bleed inside, drip by drip, and no one sees the scars. So today, we're confronting this invisible bleeding head on. We'll talk about why emotional pain cuts so deep, how to recognize when you're bleeding out, and how to stitch yourself back together so you can emerge stronger, not broken. Something that I have observed for a while, I would say within the last 7 years. The problem right now is that society doesn't offer a crutch for your wounded mind. When you're physically injured, everyone understands. They offer help, patience, care, right? But when you're emotionally wounded, you're often left to figure it out alone. This isolation magnifies the pain. You start questioning your worth, your sanity, your strength. You wonder why you can't just snap out of it, right? I used to think that. The world doesn't see your internal bleeding, so they don't acknowledge your need to heal. And this creates a vicious cycle. Hurt, hide, pretend, repeat, right? You've done it, I've done it, everybody has done it, my wife has done it, I've seen it. I've seen her do it all the time before she started working on herself. I used to do it all the time before I decided to work on myself. I see people doing it all the time right now. You end up bleeding silently behind closed doors, never showing the world the depth of your suffering, right? And over time, unaddressed emotional wounds harden into limiting beliefs that sabotage every relationship, every dream. But what if we stop downplaying emotional pain? I know, right? That sounds kind of crazy. What if we acknowledge that it's real, that it's valid, and that it demands proper attention? Let's dig deeper and see what's really going on beneath the surface. I had a close friend who lost his job unexpectedly. On paper, losing a job is a financial hit. But for him, it was an emotional earthquake. He felt worthless, like he'd failed as a provider and as a human being. He carried that wound everywhere, into his marriage, into his friendships, into his self-image. He snapped at loved ones, doubted every decision, and couldn't enjoy things that once brought him joy. Like spending time with his wife, spending time with his kids, going to concerts, things like that. He was just like, meh. He was bleeding emotionally, but no one saw a drop of blood. One night, his wife finally confronted him. She said, "You're not who you used to be. It's like you're hurting all the time. That moment woke him up. He realized he never allowed himself to heal. He never even admitted he was wounded. He learned that healing emotional wounds isn't about toughing it out. It's about facing the pain, understanding it, and giving yourself permission to rebuild from the inside out. This is something that I also have gone through, but I like to share this story because it's recent. And right now, a lot of people are going through similar things in regards to jobs. Because you don't have to get fired or laid off to suffer something like this. Sometimes just going to a job you hate makes you bleed emotionally. But here's the thing. Your brain processes emotional pain similarly to physical pain. A heartbreak, rejection, or betrayal lights up the same neural pathways as a broken limb. There's neuroscience behind this. It's not in your head. It's in your brain, and it's damn real. Studies show that social rejection and emotional trauma activate the same pain centers as physical injuries. I know, it sounds crazy, but it's true. The brain scans show it. That's why a simple insult can feel like a punch in the gut. If someone you care about, like a parent, something like that, wife, something, says something hurtful, and you feel it, sometimes you might feel like you're being punched in the gut, right? I've had that feeling before. Not with my wife, but with previous partners. And it feels like I've been literally physically punched. And I see people going through the same thing. And they think it's a weakness, but it's not a weakness. It's human biology. Recognizing this truth breaks the stigma, because for some fucking reason, there's a stigma behind this. You're not weak for feeling wounded. You're wired this way. You bleed inside because your brain reacts to emotional harm as if it's physical. And understanding this lays the foundation for healing. Accept that emotional pain is real, legitimate, and deserving of your attention. With this acceptance, we can move forward to better ways of dealing with it. That's why there's therapy. That's why I always recommend to talk about how you're feeling, because based on how you feel, you can feel wounded. If you feel hurt, maybe you're wounded. You know, now I'm going to share the steps that will help you control the bleeding. So all you have to do is try them. See if they work for you. And like I always say, if they don't work for you, tweak them so they can work for you. So step 1, this is important. Acknowledge the wound. No more minimizing. Oh my gosh. I want to share something with this. Right now, I don't know why, when it started, but it's taking over social media and a lot of people's lives. For some reason, a lot of people tend to minimize emotional pain. One of the things that I have seen a lot, and I have heard people say this, when it comes to mental breakdowns or having anxiety or anything like that, they call it, and I repeat, I'm not making this shit up. I saw a post on Reddit about this. I've heard people say this in front of me, and it pisses me off because it's like, you're fucking stupid. But to each its own. I don't say that out loud. They called a mental breakdown Menti B. And you know how stupid that sounds? To call a mental breakdown something that literally breaks you emotionally? A Menti B? It's like you went to fucking Starbucks, the mental Starbucks, right? And you're like, I want to have a mental breakdown, but I don't want a big one. I want a mentee B. When I first heard it from a person, I was like, what? And when she explained it, I was like, now I can see why your life is the way that it is. That's what I'm talking about when people are minimizing it. Calling it a mentee B doesn't just minimize your pain. It minimizes other people's pain. And it doesn't help you at all. Because calling it something small, calling it something that small like a mentee B means, and it makes you think that it's small. When you had a fucking mental breakdown, don't call it a mentee B. Call it what it is. Say, I'm hurt. Identify what caused it. A betrayal, a loss, a failure. Name the emotion. Anger, sadness, fear, awareness breaks the denial's grip. So don't minimize it. Because literally, when you minimize it, you're not going to pay attention to it. It's like seeing a little stain and being like, it's too small. I don't need to deal with it. Step 2, sit with it. This is the hardest step. That's why people like to minimize shit, especially emotional pain, because we hate feeling pain, so we distract ourselves. But healing demands you feel the wound fully. So it's okay to scream, to cry, to journal, to do whatever it takes to express what you're holding inside. Step 3, challenge the narrative. Emotional wounds often come with toxic stories. I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. I'll always fail. Question these beliefs. Are they facts or just fear's voice whispering lies? Step 4, seek support. Don't bleed alone. Reach out to friends, family, or a therapist or a support group. Because here's the thing, and this is important about vulnerability. Vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Talking about your pain helps release its hold. When you talk about your pain, you're acknowledging it, you're seeing it, you're feeling it. And if you are ready to take control and to say, you know what, this pain is not going to hold me back any longer, by talking about it, by being vulnerable about it, you understand it even more. Step 5, practice self-compassion. Treat yourself as you treat a wounded friend. No self-blame, no harsh judgments. Replace criticism with kindness. Remind yourself that healing takes time and patience. Step 6, healthy coping strategies. You have to develop this. Exercise, meditation, reading, hobbies, anything that nurtures your soul. This is about you, not about me. It's about you. So anything that helps you feel at peace, like your soul is content. You don't think about the pain or anything like that. It actually overcomes the pain and the negative emotions. Do it. Because when negative emotions surge, channel them into growth. And you can do that by having a healthy coping mechanism. So turn pain into fuel for rebuilding yourself. Step 7, reassess your boundaries. Some wounds come from people, and these people never deserved a seat at your table. So cut ties with toxic influences. Surround yourself with those who respect your worth. These steps are not quick fixes, because nothing in life is. They're long-term commitments to your well-being. Every step you take is a stitch closing the wound, keeping you from bleeding emotionally day after day after day. You might fear that confronting pain will break you. Oh, I had that feeling before. I had that fear, and I know how it feels. But Real danger lies in ignoring it. Because here's the thing, and this is why I want people to understand. That's why I'm so passionate about this. I didn't see this until I learned it from my wife. Emotional wounds don't vanish. They metastasize. They become a cancer of your soul. They seep into your identity, your dreams, and your future choices. But when you do the work, you learn that you're stronger than your pain. You become the person who can say, I've been hurt, but I'm still standing. I'm still capable of giving and receiving love, of chasing dreams, of living fully. This newfound resilience isn't just for show. It changes how you approach life. You stop being afraid of wounds because you know how to heal. You stop running from tough conversations, from risk, from vulnerability. And as you gather this courage, you'll discover a version of yourself you didn't know existed. One that can take a hit and still choose hope, love, and growth. Heal wounds become scars that tell stories, not define your identity. Imagine a future where your past hurts don't hold you hostage. How would that feel? Where painful memories lose their venom, becoming lessons instead of curses. When you heal, you improve every relationship, romantic, platonic, professional, all of them. You stop bleeding on people who never cut you. You show up whole, present, and secure, not weary and on edge. This ripple effect spreads beyond you. Healed people inspire others to heal. Communities grow stronger when members address their pain instead of passing it on. Families build legacy. When you get rid of the pain, when you grow stronger and address your pain, because then you're not passing that on to your kids. And your kids are not passing it to your grandkids, and so on and so forth. Emotional healing isn't just personal, it's collective. And right now, after what we have gone through in the last almost 10 years, we need this. And by committing to healing, you claim ownership of your narrative. No longer defined by old wounds, you write a story of resilience, courage, and purpose. The future becomes a canvas, not a battlefield. So remember, you bleed more emotionally than physically, and that's okay. It means you're human. It means that you care, that you feel deeply. So don't shame yourself for bleeding. Use it as a sign you're alive, that you're capable of growth and change. And don't allow anybody, particularly with guys for some reason, this is happening a lot. Don't allow anybody to tell you you can't feel your emotions. I see this all the fucking time. If you're a guy, you cannot feel. If you're a guy, you have to deal with your emotions on your own. If you're a guy, you have to be a robot. But we're human. And humans feel. Just like animals and plants, they feel. The only difference between them and us is that we have a part in our brains that lets us turn those thoughts and those emotions and those feelings into words, so we should be able to understand them. But we don't use that. We're not doing that. We let others tell us not to be vulnerable, not to feel, not to be human. And when that happens, the internal bleeding becomes a cancer of the soul, a cancer that slowly but surely kills your identity. Because then you cannot love, you cannot feel other people's pain, you cannot be empathetic. It stops you from being a human being. So don't allow anybody, whatever social media influencer you follow that says this, that says you cannot feel, you cannot be a human, you're a man, you should not feel any pain or anything like that, you cannot talk about it. Tell them to fuck off, because at the end of the day, it seems that they don't understand what being human is all about. And I don't want you to have this cancer of the soul, because I feel like I had it for a really long time, from a very young age until I decided to work on myself. But it was hard to understand that I was bleeding emotionally. And I bled on my wife, I bled on previous partners without even knowing it. But nobody asked me what's wrong. Nobody asked me, how come you feel like that? Right? I had to do it all on my own, and thanks to my wife, I also became a better man. I became a better man by stopping the bleeding that I was having internally. I became a better person, a better human, a better version of me by being vulnerable, by understanding my pain, by being able to say, like, you know what, this hurt me back in the day, and now I can fucking move on. So again, don't allow anybody to tell you not to feel. Because when you lose that capability, what separates you from becoming an animal? Right? An animal that literally just responds based on emotion, not logic. That's what happens with this cancer of the soul. It stops you from literally thinking thoroughly about your emotions. You react to anger. You react to sadness, but you don't respond to it. So stop the bleeding. Do it for you. Do it for the people that care about you. And do it for your legacy, especially if you have kids. They don't deserve for you to bleed on them without knowing why. Because then they're going to bleed on others. And that's why we have the society that we have today. Everybody's bleeding emotionally, but they don't want to pay attention to that wound. They see it, but then they call it a men TV. Or they call it, just a scratch. Or they're like, I'm a man. I cannot cry. I cannot suffer. I cannot feel anything. But let me tell you, when I used to live that way, it didn't work for me. And I can damn guarantee it's not going to work for you. And that's it for today. If this episode sparks something in you, share it. We need more people to acknowledge that emotional pain is real and healing is possible. Send it to a friend. Post it online. Start a conversation. This is the Bad Influence Podcast with Bjordan Banderas. Talking straight about truth nobody wants to face. Strength isn't about hiding your wounds. It's about having the guts to heal them. Let's make a healing movement, not a hidden struggle. Until next time, remember, you hold the needle and thread to stitch your heart back together. Embrace your scars, keep moving forward, and never forget, you're stronger than the blood you've shed. And have a great day.